let's talk about the other pieces Rex has been working on. So we have this one here. I'm going to jump back into the forum, refresh my memory as to what that one was about. Second is the Eldritch Babysitter, whom I've hit a brick wall with. I'm not quite sure what to put into the background. It just doesn't look as creepy or weird as I'd like it. Requires more research. Well, I like what I'm seeing so far. These characters. That's really interesting. They look super creepy. I mean, backgrounds can be simple, right? You could keep them just in the background there and have nothing else that really needs to be added. But I'll take a little look here. I like the way that the babysitter is coming along. She's looking good. You'll want to, of course, make sure that her fingers and her hand are nicely refined, which I'm sure you're going to do. I can tell that this is still early stages, but as far as early stages are concerned, what we want to be focused on is the proportions of the character and the overall structure. So one thing that I am going to hit on here is just the leg that's on the other side of her body. So I'm going to make a new layer there. And what we're going to do is bring this leg down to around about here. And then pull it back up. Okay. And this leg, we'll pull that back out a tiny bit. And then bring it into the hip. What's interesting about legs is the top of them. Okay, the upper leg, it actually, when you're looking at it from the side like this, you get a nice big dip in the back belly of the leg. But then it scoops up quite a considerable amount when you get to the knee. All right. Then we bring it back down and into the calf section. And that's the sort of form that you want to be looking for. Got the leg on that side. That's looking good. And then as for her feet, I'm thinking we'll just give them a little bit more thickness. And adjust their size slightly to about there. We'll do the same thing on this side too. That feels pretty good, I think. Actually, you know what? We'll move that in closer to about there. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to push that leg out further at the knee. And now, as for her glutes at the back there, we're going to round them up and make that area a little smoother as far as the transition is concerned. So we're going to smooth that out a little bit. And we'll have the back run up in the center, like so. We'll then leave it All right, we're going to stop it right there. And then it would come up and around for the hips. Okay, beautiful. The proportions check out for the remainder of the figure, and overall, she's looking really nice. I'm looking forward to seeing how you develop her and what her finished rendition is going to be presented as in the end. All right, let's talk about the background. So we have these characters off to the side. I think that that's working really well. You may want to give her a little bit of a platform, which I'm sure you'll do. And you're going to know what sort of environment she's going to be featured in most. Assuming you've already thought about and imagined where her journey will end up going throughout the story. And so if you can find an environment that aligns with that theme, then that'll be the way to go, I would say. So I'm just going to go with something gothic to start with, but we could totally go ahead and just leave the platform as that. Once again, I'm going to go for some brick tiling, stones. That's pretty much a standard that you can go with. That'll usually work. Most environments in most genres are likely going to be able to accommodate a bricked ground without breaking it, without breaking the theme. And you would simply, in order to create a faded effect, you'd just start breaking up these lines. Okay, Rex says, as for the babysitter, think super creepy out of this world background. Okay, cool. That sounds good. That's exciting to work with. That's the vibe I was getting. So in that case, what you could have is maybe these bricks starting to break apart around her. So you could have something like this, but you've got some floating bricks maybe. And you could have them continuing off behind her into the background. And it could be a really fun effect to play around with. Probably just want to make sure that they look as though they're on the same level. And potentially not too uniform. So you might have another one out here. Okay. That might be a fun effect to create. And then, as for these guys, well, you could have a bit of a Let's see now. Maybe there is some sort of arc coming up behind her. Arch, I should say. That's the word that I'm looking for there. And that could be used to create a really nice frame around her. And this arch could be broken as well, but the bits and pieces of it may be suspended in space. I'm going to readjust this arch here, or this side of the overall arch. You know, I guess you'd probably want to do a bit of an outline for it first before you start to break it up. And maybe it gets more broken up toward the apex of the arch. Until we've just got crumbs left at the top. So it could look like that. But another way to do it as well would be to extend the length of this arch, just because it feels like there's a lot of negative space up the top there. And then I'd recommend taking this ball and lifting it just that little bit higher for the sake of composition. Okay, and you'd end up with something like that. And of course, you could also have some pillars here. Or other ruins of from the environment. Just once again to help create a sense of depth, but also to frame the scene. So something like that could look pretty cool. And then up the top here, maybe you could have some kind of swirling storm, right? Like a cloud, like very dark clouds. And it might look a little bit like this. And maybe it's being caused by this black hole of energy. Now, it can be very easy to overdo backgrounds, so I might have already gone ahead and done that, honestly, by including all of these elements, but at least you can pick and choose. Like, if there is anything here that I've added in that you like the look of, like maybe, for example, you don't like the arch in the background, but maybe you like the porthole at the top. And we could even have like rock and bits and pieces, or just dark energy maybe dropping down from the top there. Okay, and then, you know, off into the distance, you could have more bits and pieces of rock and brick. And that'd be what you're left with. In the coloring process, I would say have these guys levitating with a bit of a flame or a light underneath them. Creating these vertical eye direction lines or visual direction lines. I don't know what to call them. I don't have the technical terminology, but there's a bit of a vertical vibe going on here. I'll say that. Okay, so that's the background that I'd maybe explore with her if it was up to me. All right, Rex says, like, it makes no sense for a normal brain. Eldritch means to defy the standards of reality. Hence my difficulties trying to get a background. I get that. Rex says, I love that you were completely happy with just sketching out some cool backgrounds for me. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. No worries. Of course I'm happy sketching out some interesting backgrounds. It's a fun challenge.